Welcome to the Outliers Podcast, celebrating the people, the skills, and the tools that create stories worth reading. A presentation of Outliers Writing University, where tomorrow's authors learn the craft.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Outliers YouTube channel and podcast series and our program, Get to Know. I'm your host, DP Lyle. Kathy is off today. We've given her a break, a mental health break, I think, or something like that. She probably needed it. And we have a great guest for you today. Best-selling author, award-nominated author, hails from Vancouver, Canada, Robyn Harding. Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Well, it's good to have you here. Now, I want to back up a little bit, like way back. When you were growing up, as a kid and a young adult and all of that, do you think that there were things in your upbringing and your environment and you and all that led you to being a writer?
Yeah, and one of the things that I often credit with my creativity is it was pretty boring where I grew up. I'm a certain age where, this was pre-internet. It was way before phones. And where I lived in a small town in northern British Columbia, and we only had two TV channels. Well, we had three, but two were the same. So, it was pretty limited. So I feel like I used my imagination so much. My friends and I, we were always creating, putting on plays and telling stories. And I was a huge reader because that was, a world to escape into. And so I do think it has really pushed me to become a creative person and also a huge TV addict because I
Yes.
think growing up without it, oh, no one watches more TV than I do now.
I think I have to say, I grew up way back ago. I grew up on radio, and we used to listen to radio all the time. We had an
Wow.
old Philco Cathedral, and it wasn't until I was 5 or 6 years old that we got a TV. And
Right.
then it was rabbit ears with aluminum foil on them, only
Yes.
three channels, like you said.
Yeah.
And but I think it sparks your imagination. Radio really sparks your imagination.
Oh,
It's like reading
100%.
rather than
Yeah.
watching. It makes you visualize things.
Yeah.
So where did
I,
you go to
I lived
school?
in this,
Oh,
I
go ahead.
I lived in this small town and we had a surprisingly really creative education, which is weird because it was like a pulp mill town. Like it was very forestry based, very, fairly blue collar town. And we got these teachers from out of nowhere. I don't know where they came from, and they were so creative. And we were always putting on like radio plays. And our one teacher got a hold of a video camera, and we were doing plays, and we were just, and I was like so bossy, and I was like, cut. I was like directing the whole thing. But
But
it
a
was so
video camera,
great.
wow.
It was really
Video
great.
camera
And,
was a
and
big
then
deal. Yeah.
we had in my high school, we had creative writing classes. I had a script writing directing class, like really great outlets for creative people in an environment where you maybe wouldn't expect it.
That's amazing. Where did
Yeah.
what was your education? Where did you go to school and things like that?
So I did came down to Vancouver from my little town. Or first I went to a city called Kamloops, which is kind of on
Yeah,
the
yeah.
radar right now because that's where Hudson Williams from Heated Rivalry was born.
Yeah.
So I started college there, then I came down here and I actually went into journalism because I
Okay.
thought, you know what, I'm good with words, I'm a good writer. I wasn't really focused on the creativity. I was just like, how do I use this to get a job? And so I went into journalism and soon realized that I just was not cut out for that at all. And switched my program into marketing and ended up working at an ad agency for several
Wow.
years. Yeah.
Well, when did you decide that you could write a story, that you could write a novel, that you could actually do that, and that you wanted to sit down and do that?
Yeah. Odd timing in that I wrote my first novel when I had toddlers.
Right.
So I had in Canada, we get quite a bit of maternity leave. Like now you get a lot. At the time, you got a year. And it was great. It gives you that time. But then also, I felt like I needed some. stimulation for my brain, and that I could work around nap times and get up early and stay up late, and kind of work around having two kids, being a full-time mom. And yeah, I wrote my first novel. That was 2003, I think.
Hmm.
And very different from what I write today. I started during the whole, as they called it then, chick lit, the Bridget Jones's Diary, Confessions of a Shopaholic. And my first novel was a comedy.
Interesting.
It was called The Journal of Mortifying Moments.
Oh, I like that. What a cool title. So when
It's
did you
pretty
switch
funny.
over to the darker, more
The dark
thrilling
side.
world?
So my first well, it's not quite a thriller, but it is my first trip to the dark side was The Party, which came out in 2017. And I had been writing comedies for a few years. I think I published six novels that were, his, humorous women's fiction, I guess you would say, and did one young adult novel. And then I took a break and I focused on screenwriting. And that was largely fruitless, but I did get one film produced, which was amazing and a real educational experience, and very glamorous and stressful and interesting, but it also made me really examine what I wanted to do, and I realized I wanted to publish again.
Mhm.
And at that point, I realized that my reading tastes had really changed, and that's what I like to read, was the dark stuff. And I didn't know if I could write it because I was worried about it being depressing, or, too scary
Yeah.
or creepy or whatever. And then I decided to try it, and found out I loved it.
Yeah.
I love writing all the twists and turns and the dark stuff, and so yeah, the party was my first
When at
sort
some
of.
point you were nominated for the Crime Writers of Canada award. That,
Yeah, so two of my
yeah,
books have been, actually.
that's
So
very
that
good.
book, The Party,
Yeah.
was a finalist, and then my novel, The Drowning Woman, was also a finalist.
Okay.
So did not win, but it's an
That's
honor
okay.
to be nominated,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
it
You
really is.
win. You win when you're nominated. There's no question about it. Um, Now, you also dabbled there. You mentioned it in screenwriting and production and stuff like that. How, was it just that one off, or what, did you do it? Did you do several projects?
Just, I mean, I wrote a gazillion projects. Like, I'd get things into development, and producers would option something, and that
Yeah,
is a tough business.
it is.
So the one film, independent film, comedy drama called The Steps, was the one thing that actually got produced. So
Well,
yeah, and it was a really cool experience that I am glad I had.
it is a daunting world because there are a lot of cooks in the kitchen.
That's exactly what it is. That's exactly what made me realize, I thought when I was writing novels, I thought, oh, I'm such a collaborative person. I love teamwork. I
Yeah,
love
yeah, yeah.
working in an
Right,
office. And I thought this will be perfect. And then when I got there, I was like, hey, hands off my script,
yeah,
right? Like,
yeah.
everybody wants to put their fingerprints on it. And with a novel, it's just you and your editor, and you're just trying to make the story
Right,
better. And there are no
right.
agendas other than that. Whereas in a script, there are a lot of agendas. Everybody, an actor wants their role to be bigger, and the director wants, has a different vision, and then the editor. I mean, it's a super different experience.
Well, at Outliers Writing University, we have a lot. Most of our students are starting to walk down this path, and they want to get published, and maybe they published one book and they want to get the second one better, whatever. But they're novices in the journey, if you will. What's the most important thing you think the person who's starting out should understand about writing and telling a story?
Um, So before you're published, when people are, dabbling, I always tell them to finish something. I think it's very easy to start something. I did it myself many times, and it's easy to start and then go, oh, I don't know where it's going, and then let it flail. So I think it's really important to write the whole thing, even if you're writing it part way and you're like, oh, this is basically, a new book came out and it's too similar. But if you can push through and finish it, you'll just learn so much about the arc of a story and taking characters from the beginning, the middle, the end, and what it takes to write a novel.
Yeah.
Um, and then I also would say, like, I have been in the business now, 14 novels, 22 years. It is a long game. And, it's hard to keep going and switch gears, but that is what it takes, I think, to have a long career. I do have friends who are so lucky they've been with the same publisher and for many, many books. I've had so many I think I've been with every publisher now. And then, it happens. It's not working out anymore. I'm not selling enough books. COVID got dropped, and I just take it on the chin. It's always hard. And then I write something. I'm like, I gotta write something really good to get a new publisher. And then I've been lucky enough to be able to do that.
Now, you consider yourself an outliner or a pantser, as they say, or somewhere in between, or how do you
Yeah.
approach a project?
Uh, I guess I am a lazy outliner, I could say. Like, it's kind of in between, I guess, in that I definitely know the major plot points, like the major turning points of the save the cat beats, I know all those points, but I don't do detailed outlines. So I'm very much on just like a few quick notes just to know, and then right between the hooks in the wall kind of thing. So
So
that's
you quasi plant and then in between pants.
yes,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. But
Exactly.
when I wrote rom-coms, like light stuff, I would just wing it. But with
Hmm.
thrillers and mysteries, I feel like it's so important to you know, work out where the puzzle pieces slot together,
Yeah.
and the clues and the red herrings, and readers of this genre are so sophisticated and they're so hard to fool. So
Yeah.
I feel like it does take some really sitting down and thinking about the beats of the story in order to, keep readers satisfied.
And regardless, you always hit that 40 to 50,000 word panic about this is garbage. It doesn't work. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a fraud. And
Oh,
it doesn't matter how many books you've written, right?
I'm on there right now with my work in progress. Well, this is boring and terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the way it works, unfortunately. And it never changes. After 27 books, I still do the same
Wow.
thing. So it's
Well, that makes
yeah,
me feel better.
no, it never, and I know people have written 100 books that'll tell you the same
Yeah.
thing. So let's talk a little bit about this. What a great cover, number one. I love the colors in
Yeah.
it, all that. Tell us about this.
Okay, so this is my latest that came out on March 3rd, and it is the story of a couple whose marriage has been rocked by infidelity back in New York City, and they decide to flee the scene of the crime, get away from all the busybodies who tell them, work it out, leave him, they get away from the noise and they buy a villa in Spain on this hillside above the Costa Brava, and they're working on this rundown old villa and their relationship. And one day there is a knock at the door, and it's a couple of Aussie travelers whose van has broken down on the road outside. And this couple who are feeling kind of isolated and lonely invite them in. And it turns out to be a pretty big mistake, as you can imagine, with a thriller.
Yes. Don't answer the door.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. How long did it take you to write this one?
Hmm. I'm not sure.
Uh,
Like, I'm kind of, I've slowed down my pace. I was putting a book out every year, and it's just too taxing for me. And I feel like my books are
yeah.
better when I have more time with them. So I probably took about a year to write this.
Okay. That's good.
Um, yeah, and I love writing. Actually, I love the process of it, when I'm not under the gun. So if I
Yes.
can kind of do it when when you're feeling it and you're into it, and then if you're really not feeling it,
Right.
then take a day, do some editing, do some promotional stuff. That if you have enough time, then you have that luxury. And when you're on that tight deadline, you have to force yourself every day, whether you feel it or not. And I enjoy that a lot less.
Yeah, I think people who aren't writers but want to be and romanticize about it don't understand how much alone time is involved and how much you're taken away from family, friends, and other activities because you're sitting in your little room playing with your imaginary friends and life is going on outside.
That's
And
true.
it's,
Yeah.
you got to
And
want to do it. You got to want to do it. That's
yeah,
all there is
and
to it.
you
Yeah.
know, it's not uncommon for me to bring my laptop on a family vacation
Yeah.
because
Sure.
I've got to keep doing it. I've got a deadline, or I don't want to miss out if I feel really inspired and something comes to me. I don't want to
That's it.
be without a way to, sometimes I just write it in a notebook, but yeah, I often will be like, I'm just going to take a few hours this morning and
But it's those moments that you live for when that inspiration and everything, it's when,
yeah,
and you know as well as anybody that when you write those couple of scenes, 3 scenes that they're flying, it's because you're ready for them and you're excited about it. And then you get those couple of scenes, it's like hammering through a concrete wall,
yes,
you know.
so
But
true.
so when those good ones come, you want to jump on board. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
where can people find you? Where can they find the book? Um,
The book should be pretty much everywhere. It's definitely online for sale and it's in most bookstores.
okay.
Uh, Barnes and Noble has copies and obviously Amazon and Independence and in Canada Indigo and lots of independent bookstores. And for me, my social media, I have a website also, robynharding.com, Robyn with a Y.
Yep.
And I'm probably most active, I guess, on Instagram at
Okay.
R Harding Writer, and
Okay.
on Facebook, I'm on Facebook, Robyn Harding.
Sure. Very cool. Well, this has just been wonderful and good luck with the book. Like I said, I love the cover. I love the story concept. It going to be a hoot and a half. So we want to get you back when you have another one, and we'll chat again. Yeah,
Thank you. Well, thank you so much for having me, and it was a pleasure to chat.
yeah. Thank you for being here. Well, that wraps up this episode of Get to Know here on the Outliers YouTube channel and podcast series. And as you know, we will be back with other interviews down the road. So until then, keep reading, keep writing, keep having fun. And as you know, try not to get caught.
The Outliers Podcast is a copyrighted presentation of Outliers Writing University. All rights reserved. Learn more at outlierswritinguniversity.com.